This time we want to welcome you to focus on Liberia, folks. We want to dearly welcome you to focus on Liberia. Today is Friday and is our Innovative and Solution series. In this edition of our Innovative and Solution series, we have a very unique topic to discuss, and that topic is what changes are needed in the executive, legislative, judiciary, political parties, even the voters to move Liberia forward. So in all these areas I just named, what are the changes that are needed to move Liberia forward? So we want to be able to identify a problem in each of those categories and be able to see what solutions or a solution that might be able to get us moving forward. My name is Anthony Sie, co-hosting with Mr. Dennis Jha. Mr. Jha, I am excited about this series. We have had a number of them, but this one, I think I'm excited about it. There's something about it that I feel. I don't know about you.
Excitement is an understatement. All the time we talk about the problems. Tonight we are here to talk solutions. So for each of the category that Mr. Sie has named, we will, with the help of our panelists, identify the problem, what you think the problem is, what is your proposed solution to solve that problem, and how does that solution address the problem. And we have distinct personalities here tonight with us to discuss this. This is our innovative series. Every other Friday, we discuss innovative solutions to the many problems that we face. First, we have Mr. Leo Johnson, who is joining us all the way from Canada. Mr. Johnson, welcome to Focus on Liberia.
Thank you very much for having me, Mr. Jha, and I will extend the introduction by saying I'm the president of the Liberian Association of Canada here.
Mr. President, welcome to Focus on Liberia. Next, we have Mr. Alex Chuchu Jones. Alex, welcome to Focus on Liberia. By the way, Alex is the organizer of the new movement to make Liberia better. Mr. Jones, welcome to Focus on Liberia.
Mr. Jha, Mr. Sie, my distinguished panelists, it's an honor to be here, and I'll be representing the movement to make Liberia better and contributing our 2 cents to finding solutions to Liberia. Thank you for having me.
Next, we have the chairman, organizing chairman of LEPA. He's going to define for what LEPA is. Mr. Wilmot Weti Kuni, also the former board chairman and former president of EULA. Mr. Kuni is also an analyst here at Focus on Liberia. Mr. Kuni, welcome to Focus on Liberia.
Thank you, Mr. Jha, and I look forward to sharing our views with the audience and with my fellow panelists.
Last but not the least, joining us for the first time, Mr. Desmond Finlay. Mr. Finlay, welcome to Focus on Liberia.
Thank you guys for having me. Thank you, Mr. Sie and Mr. Jha, and to my fellow panelists. I hope we have a fruitful discussion and let everything be very fruitful for everybody. So yeah, thank you for having me.
In Liberia, what we used to call normal days, there was a song called From Problem to Problem. Everything is a problem. So here now in post-war Liberia, we see problem everywhere. Everyone talk about a problem. Tonight, we are here to talk about solutions. Back to you, Mr. Sie.
Mr. Jha, thank you. And to our panelists here, we are so glad and happy to have you to discuss solution this time around and not just doing the finger pointing. Now, we want to be showing the possible solutions that we can look into to solve the many problems that we have. Those who are joining us here via social media, we want to welcome you. It is because of you we do what we do. And in order not to waste your time, we will start the ball rolling with this very important topic, which is geared at finding solution to all of the many problems that we have. To get started, gentlemen, let's start with the executive. Politically speaking, the executive is where everybody want to be sitting because they're where the crumbs of the power lie. And so let's come to you, Mr. Wilmot Kuni. You've been around and you know about this game that we're talking about, the executive. What are the problems, or what is a problem that you see that you think if we find a solution, what would that solution be? and how would that solution help the executive?
Thank you again, Sonny. I have a one point solution to all of the problems you're talking about. But
Okay.
since you talk about the executive, let me stick to the executive. The
Mhm.
problems we have with the executive, as well as the rest of the political institutions in our country, is the centralization of power in Monrovia, the centralization of power in the executive, the centralization of power in all of the other branches of our government. So those of us that are in LIPA, what we are saying is that power is so highly centralized in Monrovia. And Monrovia, not only the political power, the economic power of the country is highly centralized and tightly controlled in Monrovia. So we submit, unless and until we can break down that power structure in Monrovia and empower the rest of the regions of Liberia, we will continue to be talking about these problems over and over. Monrovia take all of our economic power. Monrovia take all of our economic, our political power, to the extent that the rest of the country is powerless. The rest of the country is dependent on Monrovia. So we need a solution that will take away power from Monrovia and restore this power to the people.
And what is that solution? What is that solution?
We're talking about effective, we're talking about a careful and aggressive plan of decentralization. I'm not talking about the building of county service centers. I'm talking about decentralization that politically empower the people of Liberia in their various counties to help to control their own destiny, to shape their own decisions, to shape their own developmental needs. Take that power.
And Mr. Kunin, not to interrupt you, you are describing it, and I like what you're giving me, but how do you do it?
Oh, for beginners, they say our country is a unitary state, and all of the powers to appoint, even the village chief, is in the president. So we are calling for a constitutional amendment that will redefine the relationship between the local government and Monrovia. Look, my brother, in Liberia, we don't even have a local economy. The national economy is the local economy. The local economy is the national economy. Everything about Liberia is Monrovia. Everything about Liberia is, if you want to see even the minimal level of modern living, you have to go to Monrovia or to some of the urban clusters. We are saying that we have to break down that power structure, where the people in the county, where the resources, the actual resources of the country are generated, where they are empowered to be part of the decision-making process in determining how those resources are used, instead of politicians based in Monrovia, politicians that produce nothing based in Monrovia, determining what goes to Grand Crew, what goes to LOFA, under that silly stuff they call County Development Fund. I'm talking about a genuine plan that will share political power, a genuine plan that will share economic power, so that the people of Liberia can be empowered, so that we reach a point where Liberia is now Monrovia. If we don't stop this notion of Monrovia being Liberia, we will continue to move from one administration to the other, and we'll be having the same result. So for the executive, we have to break the executive power of the country and spread that executive power to the rest of the country, along with the economic power that comes with it. And then we'll be making some progress. So decentralization for me is the goal. It's where we need to be going in this new century.
Thank you, Mr. Cooney. As the show progresses, we'll ask you for more details, because what shifting that power away, what exactly it means, we still don't know. But let's go to our next panelist, Mr. Desmond Finlay. Desmond, what's first identify the problem in the executive? What is your solution, and how does your solution address that problem?
I think the problem for me is it's not so much the executive, it's the country at whole, at large, right? And the problem I see with Liberia is lack of ramifications for people actions. All right. So, for example, I'll give you a typical example. A young man leaves America, and this is a true story. I got a friend that would never drink. He never drink at any party. Wouldn't drink beer at a party. Wouldn't do anything at a party unless his wife is there. And the reason why he does that because he wants to make sure he gets home safe, right? No traffic, no police stopping him, anything like that. He just want to make sure he gets home safe. So if his wife is there, he would drink. Even if his wife is not there, he wouldn't touch alcohol. But the same young man goes to Liberia, and once he gets to Liberia from the airport, he's drinking a beer and driving. So I didn't understand. I'm like, but what's going on here? The problem is nobody gets any in trouble that lasts long for them to be afraid to take these actions, right? So the solution was like, so if you do anything in Liberia, you can get away with it. That's the bottom line. That's what I think the problem is, cutting across all stages, legislative, the people themselves, the executive, everybody. The fact that you can do something and get away with it, right? There's a minister now that's a convicted felon. Like he went to court, got convicted. Now he's a minister in Liberia today, sitting there today, right? So my thing here is the solution to this problem is having a serious prison system that would keep people, that people would see that if I do this thing, this will actually happen, right? So by creating a system that criminalizes people action to the point that the penalties is actually taken serious, as opposed to, oh, I make it do it today and nothing will come out of it. So I think that's a solution. Go ahead.
So in your view, the problem is people are not held accountable. So your solution is punishment.
Complete punishment, absolute punishment with actual teeth. Now you can go to court in Liberia. There's a guy that, and these things I'm telling you are factual things. A guy committed a rape, got sentenced to jail for 10 years. I think got sentenced to jail for 20 and something years. He spent 3 years in jail. His family paid money. He came out of jail. He lives in Ghana now. The stories are endless. There are people that go to jail in Liberia that sit in jail and call out of jail. They have a serious life. So what are the ramifications to my actions? Like what's stopping me from doing what the next guy is doing? Nothing. So that's like strengthening our punishment and stuff like that. That's what I think is important for now.
Thank you, Mr. Fenner. Like come to you, Mr. Johnson. You know, the executive. What problem do you see there? You know, you guys, let us not forget that the executive is not just that mansion; it got branches. So, you know, go in there too, Leo. So, what are the problem, or what is a main problem you see there? What may be a good solution, and how do you effect that good solution?
I think I will go further beyond just the cosmetic issues that we're describing, because I think those issues are a symptom of a bigger problem. And the bigger problem is we're trying to run a system of governance that makes no sense in Liberia, one that is not ours, one that we copied from the United States and pasted with no understanding of the context in terms of how it disrupted our system. Number two, we fought war off and on for almost 2 decades, and we pretended like we can just continue from where we stopped. Before even the war, there were already problems to begin with. Most of the problems we are talking about, there were already those problems existing. And then we went into almost 20 years of war. And when we came back from the war, we decided, let's just pretend like nothing was damaged. Let's just continue from where we actually stopped. So actually, we have a country in a governance crisis. And the governance crisis is that nobody knows how to enforce the Constitution. Nobody knows how to implement it. So for the executive, let me just say this clearly. People forget that regardless of what type of governance system you bring in, until we have some clear job descriptions and annual evaluation of performance metrics, there is no way you can run anything. The Republic of Liberia is the only machine that I see running that you can hire a minister, for example, appoint a minister for an education system that is badly damaged. And every year, after 4 years, the minister leaves and you come back and say, in fact, the education system got from bad to worse. So I think the first thing that needs to be done, and the problem, I know you talk about the problem for me is the governance system. No president knows how to implement it. It's a big mess. We have a constitution that does not make sense. So every president that comes there ignores it and just do whatever they can and manage the process until they actually leave. So I think the biggest solution for me would be rewriting. I'm not saying our whole constitution needs a rewriting. It does not make sense. But when I get to the cosmetic issue, let's talk about the practical issues. Every minister or everybody that works in a branch of the executive government that's being hired should be hired with a very clear outline job description and with a very clear performance metrics. How do you know that your minister succeeded and how do you know that your minister failed at the end of the year? The second thing I would say, this would allow us to transition from a political driven workforce to a consistent bureaucracy, because people will be hired with clear outcomes that they are going to be evaluated by. And if they cannot meet those outcomes, they get fired not because of which political party they belong to, but because of their inability to execute the job. The third thing I would say, the Constitution says the president is supposed to submit an actual report on the State of the Union. But what do we get? We get a political speech for 2 hours. The president is not just supposed to be giving us a political speech. That political speech is supposed to be a summary of an actual report that is published and made public that goes into the details of the actual state of the union or the state of the country. So here's what I will actually say. We need to be clear that we need a constitutional change and not a constitutional amendment. And the final piece I will close on will be what I call budget transparency. In Liberia, nobody understands, right, how much our economy can really raise. Every year we say our budget is 500 million, but of the 500 million, 250 to 300 is in donor funds. Who budgets for a country based on what money you're supposed to receive from donors? Your budget is supposed to be based on what your economy can actually generate. And if donors come in with funding, that is great, but it is unfair for us to be putting donor funding lines into our budget, inflating it, and every year we find ourselves in a deficit. So because of that, the budget is a voodoo document. Nobody can understand it, because which donor funds came in and which one left is up in the air for the Minister of Finance. So actually try and make sense of it. You read a document, there's no head, there's no tail to it.
All right. So Leo, you are saying, the budget is also a major problem. And if we can standardize the budget in a way that it reflects, real change, we're not going anywhere.
Right.
All right, let's come to you, Mr. Ellis Tutu Jones. In the executive branch of government, what is the major problem you see and what may be a shifting solution, and how will you recommend that solution be implemented?
Yeah, thank you very much. And I think the panelists, all of them, have some good points, and their answers are all partially correct. I think the problem in Liberia is you and me. It's Alex Jones, it's Mr. Johnson, it's Mr. Dennis, it's all of us. Because we always take the back seat when it comes to our country. In other people's country, we vote, we are committed to the processes, but when it comes to our country, we sit back. So I think that's the problem, because government, unchecked government, is tyranny. We have to check government. Every government wants more power. Every government tries to abuse power. So with the executive, because people have not been involved, because we have not been putting our government's foot to the fire, they kind of run wild. They get there and they do whatever they want to do. So what we've done at the movement to make Liberia better is we've taken some initiatives. We've launched a program to go on and specifically lay out what kinds of reform do we need in Liberia, because it's not just the executive, as we all discussed in this program. But as far as it relates to the executive, we've given the executive too much power. We're giving our presidents too much power, past and present, from inception. So we need to take responsibility, and we need to hold our politicians, we need to hold our government, we need to hold our presidents responsible. And not only holding them responsible, we need to tell them what kind of future we want, what kind of country do we want, what kind of constitution we want. And we've all failed to do that. No one has proposed what constitution. When it comes to constitutional reform, we say let Amos Sawyer or Kessley or some book guy do it, forgetting that that constitution is going to impact our lives, forgetting that that same constitution is going to be what determines our success and failure as individual and as a country. So I think what the movement to make Liberia better is trying to do is to work with all Liberians, you, myself, everyone, for us to sit down, craft where we want our country, what kind of powers we want our president to have or executive, and then present that and say, this is what we want. Because the last time I read the Constitution, it says that this is the government for the people, of the people, and by the people. So if we don't speak up and we expect our senators and representatives to do the job for us, then I think that's what has gotten us here and will continue to be in this situation. So I think we all need to wake up. We need to put forward some suggestions, and we're leading the way in doing
Mr.
that.
Jones, Mr.
Yes,
Jones, this is not ancient Greece. When you say we have to sit down and do this, who are you talking about? The 4 million
I'm
people?
talking about Mr. Ja. I'm talking about Mr. Sie. I'm talking about Alice Jones. Okay, I'm talking about the ordinary people, the ones that we would call the book people.
The population is like 4.5 million. You're talking about the 4.5 million of us, or
No, I'm talking about the people who have the ability to do it. Obviously, you didn't find every American drafting the Bill of Rights in America, or you didn't find every French citizen as part of the reform in France in 1790. So what I'm saying is those people who have the ability, who have the intellectual ability, the legal ability, the political ability, instead of coming on just talking politics and just talking supposition and talking hypothesis, let us go and say, this is what we want. So what do we want from the president? What kind of president do we want? If I ask my panelists that question, should the president have the power to appoint a superintendent? Should the president have the power to appoint all the judges in the country, all the major judges? Should the president have the power to single-handedly determine what the budget is going to be through his Ministry of Finance? I think not. So if we don't do that and say, no, we don't want this Liberian president anymore in the future to determine where budget goes to what county, then we need to come out and say that, because the country is for us. It doesn't belong to the president or the 30 senators, okay, or the 100 representatives, okay. So what I'm saying is we're leading that way, and our website, Movement to Make Liberia Better.org, have some preliminary information. We call all Liberians to contribute, to go in there and make suggestions, and by the end of the year, we'll have a complete document.
Thank you. Gentlemen, we are still on the executive. One last question on the executive, then we'll move to the next segment. What I want to get from you now is, on our executive, we have the superintendent. Many people agree that, hey, we should be electing them, including mayors. And then let's talk about autonomous agency. Some people feel that, if you look at the autonomous agency, sometimes two of them will have pretty much the same functions. Their statutory responsibility are all similar. And we are a small country, but we have so many institutions that are like, somebody call it a paper tiger. So do we merge them when necessary? Do we allow our superintendents, to be elected, city mayors as well? How do we reform those institutions, to make the government effective?
You want anybody to go with that?
Yeah, Leo, you start first.
Yeah, first of all, let me say again, I go back to the fundamentals. We have all these issues because we photocopied someone's constitution and pasted it. So we just created these things because they were there. So I think fundamentally, before you create a position or before you create a job, there has to be the foundation for which you need a job. So instead of us taking a real stock of our country is like a small city state. Let's be honest. Liberia is a small city state. 4.5 million people. The city of New York can swallow Liberia like a joke. So I think instead of going to even Lagos, instead of going to job description or going, to jobs and positions, we need to take a complete stock of our country. What is the makeup of our country? What are the political subdivisions of our country? As a result of those, what are the functionaries we need in place? Because some of the things that are happening, they are repetitive. We don't need all those layers of people sitting on different layers just to be on government payroll. But you cannot put the cart before the horse, like the people say. You cannot go start removing positions and adding positions because you can remove and add without properly looking at our whole governance systems and saying what is required to govern Liberia. And the only way we can actually do that, again, until we go to the organic laws of the land, until we make sure that the organic laws of the land are consistent with our culture, are consistent with the traditional makeup of our country, are consistent with the social makeup of our country. Right now, There is a big disconnect. The organic laws of our lands are disconnected from the social and culture and traditional makeup of our country.
And Leo, let me push you a little bit, because the cultural component that you're bringing in, that our laws or our form of government or our system of government, we should tailor it to our cultural belief and all that. I don't know, it appeals to me, but my question is, culturally, as Liberians and most African, we're being poor. When I say poor in terms of development, technological development, maybe economic development, we're being poor. Maybe it's cultural. So how, if we link or mirror, our development structures to our culture, how that's going to help?
Let me carry you back. If you compare Liberian cultural landscape in 1847 to any cultural landscape on the African continent, we were way ahead. We were far ahead of any country on the African continent. So from 1847, our culture was stifled, it was distorted, it was destroyed, and not allowed to evolve and progress for over 100 years. We all admit that literally climaxed into a civil war. And you cannot escape from who you are. So until we can get the guts to go back to who we are originally and find the ills, because in fact, you must give Liberia credit. After stifling the culture for over 100 years, it's still semblance of it are still around the place. So we can skip that. I'm sorry, we're willing to photocopy the culture of the United States and bring it to Liberia. How far did it take us? It took us nowhere.
All right, then Leo gave me an example of a country that has a governance structure that is like more than embedded into their culture, and they're doing well. Give me one.
Let me give you one. La Côte d'Ivoire, Ghana. The traditional chiefs, the traditional makeup and kingdoms and chiefs within Ghana are a functioning part of the governance system. In fact, the representative, what they call them, the parliamentarian, from a local region is also reports and accounts to the traditional chief within that region, vice versa. This is something I've witnessed firsthand. And these traditional institutions are not just by mouth. They are instituted, and there is an actual process in place as to how the state government engages with the traditional institutions. In Liberia, we do not have that. In fact, it's non-existent. In fact, we've excluded it from, think about it today. Say all you want about the Poorer Society, say all you want about the Sender Society or whatever you want. These are our traditions, and the things that are in it that are not correct, we should allow them to evolve. Excluding them and pretending like they don't exist is not a solution to the problem.
Thank you. I come to you, Mr. Kone.
Hold on, Mr. Because Alex talked about the Constitution, and you are talking about, it looked like for you, Mr. Johnson, everything is tied to rewriting the Constitution. And I will ask you the same question that I asked Alex. If we are writing any Constitution today, the president has to appoint that Constitution committee. So when you say we write the Constitution, who's doing it?
I am talking about the custodians of our original culture as a people. And let's be honest, not everybody is educated to be able to look at the Constitution and write it. Let's not kid ourselves. We need to make sure when we say the experts, we are not just talking about the Western academic experts. We are talking about traditional experts as well that need to make sure all Liberians are reflected. When we select all the constitutional committees, we always select to have only been Western experts. That's all that have been on it. People who went to academic school outside of Liberia.
What is your idea of how those people that will write the Constitution be recruited?
We already have people we call our traditional chiefs and zones and elders. We set them up. They already got leaders in place. So how come we don't trust the opinions of that leaders to reflect their own people, but we trust to call them when we are having big ceremonies to wear big gowns and come and sit down there? Why can't we give them the same opportunities to provide input as well?
Okay, Desmond. Desmond, you have an input. Before we come to Kuni, Desmond, you mute yourself.
Let me get my mute off.
Okay.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, sure.
Yes. So Leo raised a very interesting point, right? And that I find is passionate. You can tell that he's very passionate about the situation regarding this, the traditional people, we falling back to our traditions, right? So when Leo made a very interesting comment when he said, like, in 1847, Liberia landscape was far ahead than anybody. The interesting part about that comment was 1847 it's when we got independence. So according to what Leo is alluding to is that from independence to the 100 years, forgetting Liberia was from 1822. So prior from 1822 to 1847, Liberia was great. So the moment we got independence and we wrote Constitution, Liberia started degrading. True or not, I'm not going to argue that. The point here I want to make is that Leo fails to realize is this. Every constitutional panel that has been set up in Liberia has included chiefs. Not one that hasn't included chiefs. Are you saying, no, you can look at the facts, they're there. The 1985 constitutional panel included chiefs. The result of that is inclusive in the way our internal affairs is set up, right? I'm not saying, if you're saying we should hold it and solely go back to 1847 or pre-1847 constitution or traditional formats, Ghana is not even doing that. Ghana don't even have a traditional panel that runs fully, that is dictating to the government how the government operates, right? That Ghana doesn't have that. Ghana has an inclusive system. Are you saying that we should have an inclusive system, or are you saying we should have a system that's totally represented on a traditional basis?
Can I respond to that?
Yeah, please. That's my question.
First of all, and when I'm talking about Liberia and tradition, I'm not talking about 1822. That place called Liberia today did not exist as of 1822. It existed hundreds of years prior. People were living there. There were traditions on the land. It was not called a country Liberia. So when I'm talking about traditions and cultures, I'm not talking about what we call modern day Liberia. So let me get that point correct first of all. I'm talking.
You raised the number though.
Culture.
You called a year. You called a year. That's why I referenced that.
Oh, no, that's what I'm saying. I'm not talking about the modern state as it was set up by the free slaves that came back to Liberia. I'm talking about what existed for hundreds of years prior. But let me answer your question about the inclusion of the traditional people. I disagree with you. If you read a constitution from top to bottom, it's reflective of a minority of our Liberian population. And I'm not calling for a traditional constitution to only represent the traditional people. That doesn't make sense. It would be me not taking into consideration that our country is a cosmopolitan mix. And when I say let's go to our culture, I'm not saying go back to 1847. I'm saying go to our culture where it is now and have a review. Where are we? We don't even know. Most of us sit here, we don't even know where our culture, we don't even know what it is. We've never experienced it. How can you criticize something without properly knowing and understanding it? The understanding is what matters, and we can only do that when we bring it into the mainstream of our governance conversations to begin to see where the flaws are. The America that we sit in here today, a racist culture that we photocopy. The America that we're sitting here today, we photocopy the American culture, and it was racist. We were okay with it. Free slaves went back to Liberia and enslaved the native people, which was a direct outcome of their experience in the North American culture. We accepted that. So how come we can go back to our own and try to fix it and fix the flaws in it and evolve it?
Thank you, Leo. Mr. Jones, hold on a little bit. Mr. Kunin been waiting. Mr. Kunin, the initial question we asked you, you told us decentralize the country, you know, make sure you spread power all over the country, take power away from Monrovia, and then the problem will be solved. So what is the way you're going to do it? Like, give me a county, for example, and give me a description of how it should be done.
So I will answer that question, but you see, my brothers here, my younger brothers here, they keep dancing around the same issue. Brother Leo is talking about the governance structure, and my younger brother, the movement for reform, is talking about the responsibility falling on us. My other younger brother is talking about impunity. Look, this is all part and parcel of the problem. Again, we have to look at the governance structure, and we should look at the governance structure with the view of adapting a new structure that fit the reality of our times. So what I'm saying is that, for example, look at the tragedy that is happening in Liberia. In Liberia, we are saying that a big county, a county as big as Lofa County or Nima County, or even a county as small as River G County or Sino County or Grand Coulee County, we are saying that citizens of those counties are incapable to even run their own school district. That's what the current structure calls for. They are incapable of running their own school district. We set up this nonsensical position of district educational officer who does not report to the constituency where he works, but report to a minister of education in Monrovia. That is the power structure we're talking about. Unless we can bring governance to the people, where the people can easily hold the people that make decisions on their behalf accountable will continue to be having this problem. My disappointment in this time is that what we're talking about requires work. It requires hard work. It requires organization. It requires education. It requires conscientization. I said here one time people talking about I was talking about political camp, but you got to organize. You got to let the citizens be aware of these kind of things. Does it make sense for somebody, for a minister to come from Ministry of Education in Monrovia to go fight payroll party in Maryland County? Is that an effective strategy? So we are saying that we have to break down the current structure of government. Is that working? It will encourage patronage. It encourages the impunity my brother talking about. It encourages all of these things. And the only reason why there is resistance to the decentralization effort is because politicians in Monrovia don't want to lose political power. They don't want to lose economic power. You talk about the power of the president. One of the areas where the power of the president is manifested the appointment of all these county superintendents and chiefs in our various towns and villages. So if we set a government structure in which our counties are electing the people, you are reducing the power of the president. If we go on the economic side, we talk about the budget. The budget of our country is run in a way where all of the resources from the entire country is sent to Monrovia without any input from the various subdivisions of the country. And the budget is made in Monrovia and imposed on the country. That is the predatory nature of our government system is what needs to change. The regions are all being used to produce revenue, to collect revenue, but do not have a say as to how this revenue are expended. It is atrocious. We cannot continue with that. And I'm coming out soon, and I want to ask you a question. Yeah, my disappointment is that the current level of advocacy in our time, they're not presenting these bold ideas. The advocacy is so much entrenched in this replacement politics. You know, this person is bad. We just want the system. We don't want the system to change, but it is this person that is bad. So let that person move so we can inherit the system as it is. That's what the advocacy is about. It's not about educating our people, talking about the new governance that some of my brothers here are talking about.
All right,
Mr. Kuning.
Yeah.
Mr. Finney, please adjust your camera so we can see you better.
Sorry.
Okay, good. Mr. Kuning, here's a comment here from Mr. Jerome Verdier. He said, what public integrity, merit system, accountability, and justice, security, and opportunity for all should be the foundation of governance if we are to develop and be progressive. My question to you is, if you decentralize, if you take power to all the counties, if the president lacks integrity or if the president is corrupt in Monrovia, you take them to Grand Crew, they will still be corrupt. So instead of having bigger corrupt people in Monrovia, if you don't address the integrity issue, you just have small corrupt people in all the 15 counties.
Yeah, that's the argument. The people who want to perpetuate the predatory nature of our country, that's the argument that they make, that it is better for the corruption to be confined in Monrovia. If you decentralize in the corruption. But what they fail to take into consideration is people are held more accountable when they are closer, when the governed are closer but when those who are governed are closer to the governed. A typical example, take for example a school board that exists in your county. The school board that exists in your local area. That school board is accountable to the residents of that county in a much more efficient way. But the Monrovia people, they are putting this fear in us that if you decentralize, you will be spreading the corruption. No, I disagree.
How you fix that? How do you fix that corruption, that integrity issue, the issue of accountability? How do you fix it? Because if you don't fix it, you are only spreading it around.
No, I disagree. The reason why we have it is because it is centralized. It's too big. I'm saying if we break it down, it would be easier for us to monitor it.
Mr. Kuning,
people would be aware of it in a quicker fashion. If I have a school district that is in my town of Panya, and the teachers there are not teaching the children the right way, and we, the residents of Panya, are right there to hold the teachers accountable, it's much more efficient than to let our school go in our wrong way and wait for somebody from Monrovia.
Mr. Kone.
Yeah.
Mr. Kone, I'm entertained by the point you're making that if the governors are closer to the governed, there will be much accountability.
Transparency.
That is a false hope. We've seen that. Hiring all our elected officials and appointed officials right there in our small Monrovia, they are all right there and they can see. So let me learn, Mr. Kone. Let me learn, Mr. Kone. Let me learn. The point, Mr. Kone, let me learn. Let's make it conversational. Okay. The point Vodia is raising is decentralizing the government. Nobody is kicking against that. But even if you do it and you don't have accountability, you will still have the same problem. And that's the point he's making. So but you can decentralize if you want, which everybody agrees with, but when you don't have people who are of integrity, the same behavior will continue.
I disagree. The assumption is that you will decentralize and there will be no integrity. So if you don't decentralize, there is integrity. That's false. The examples that you brought, you talk. One of the brothers talk about Ghana. You talk about Cote d'Ivoire. Let me tell you something, my brother. All of the countries that have developed or that meet some level of minimum level of development in our sub-region, or if you go to the advanced world, the developed world, check it out. The development of those countries are propelled by the arrangement of the economy and the political structure through the creation of autonomous regions.
Mr. Kone, I still agree with you on the decentralization. It's like you're telling me if the woman has 15 children, there's a possibility that all the children will be good. And that's the point you're making. If those children are not trained, if they're not given a proper education, they will not come out good. No,
yeah, but you are assuming that they will not be trained. That's the assumption you're making. You are assuming in advance that they will not be trained. And that is a dangerous argument from the Monrovia politicians. That because they feel that transparency will not go in a region, so we shouldn't even try.
All right, Mr. Kune, let me further come to Mr. Ellis Tutu Jones. Thank you.
Let us maintain the predatory nature. The predatory nature is okay.
Yeah, Mr. Kune, you make that point. The predatory nature we all know is real, and we need to kick against it. Mr. Jones, let me come to you. You are a proponent of decentralization. I asked Mr. Kune earlier, but he didn't give me the meat I was looking for. So I'm coming to you. Maybe you have it. Well, give me a county.
I will
Tell me how you carry on decentralization in that county, economically, administratively, and if possible, educationally, so that I can get a sense of what you're talking about.
But you didn't ask me that.
I did. That was my first question. You are not paying attention. You are talking about Monrovia politicians.
Let's give it back to him. Let's give him the opportunity since he has a plan and he has to will it. Let's give him the opportunity. What will you do, Mr. Connie?
Okay, listen to me. You talk. So let's take one county for example. You talk about Sino County. Sino County is rich in all of the forest resources and even mineral resources in our country. The current arrangement you have is that all of those resources are taken from Sino County and taken to Monrovia, 100%, without any input from the people of Sino. It gets to Monrovia, and Monrovia politicians get to decide what go back to the county. So under my recommendation, I'm saying on the political side, Sino County should be empowered to elect its political leadership at the level of county.
Yeah, but Mr. Connie, is the representative of Sino County? I know I'm going to ask you a question. You have the floor. I just want to ask you a question too.
Yeah.
Okay. You're saying that a Monrovia politician, aren't Sino County representatives part of that Monrovia politicians?
Well, where they live?
Different districts.
Where they live?
Well, according to your law, that is from Sino County, they were elected by the people from Sino County.
So where they live? And in Monrovia?
I don't know the personal residency, but according to
they live in Monrovia. They live in Monrovia, but let me continue my point. They live in Monrovia. It's the open secret. Everybody lives in Monrovia. They visit our county as if to say the counties are for security. They visit their only election time.
But does that change the integrity?
Gentlemen, we'll be moving to the next segment. The
No,
crux of this thing is for you guys.
I got interrupted. So what I'm saying is, the people of Sano County, they elect their political leadership from county to other leadership. The revenue that comes from Sano County by law be divided on a 60-40 proposition. 40% of that revenue remain in Sano County. By that, the people of Sano will be able to take economic and developmental decisions in their own interest without waiting for some kind of golf.
But that's exactly what you have, Mr. Conan. Let me just educate you on this. That's exactly what you have in Nigeria. In Nigeria, where the oil comes from, the state, they get a huge percentage of that oil. Why then Nigeria has not developed? Why Nigeria has one of the lowest per capita in Africa? Why Nigerians are still poor? They have governance, they have decentralization, they keep most of the resources in the state. So if we go by your argument, and your argument alone, then we'll end up just like Nigeria, which is a horrible country in terms of economic development.
No, you're not correct. You're not correct, because Nigeria is the leading economy on the African continent. It is.
In terms of per capita, in terms of per capita, you know what Nigeria per capita is?
It's poor.
The largest economy in Africa.
Yeah, no, but I'm talking about human development per
human
capita.
Development, they don't experience
human
it.
development. You don't go by how large.
Mr. Kune, we're not talking about the size of it. We're not talking about the size of it. They don't mention the size.
The impact on the citizens.
Yeah,
right.
That's how it's mentioned.
In terms of poverty, in terms of corruption, in terms of living standard, in terms of mortality rate, in terms of per capita. Nigeria is one of the worst countries on the planet, even though
on the planet by far.
And even in corruption,
and what you just suggesting, they do have that.
But
the level of development in Nigeria, you can't compare that.
Yeah, that big buildings, Mr. Kuni, we're not talking about that. We're
not talking about the houses.
So Mr. C, let me just come in. I just wanted to clarify some things. Again, when I said that Liberians are the problem, this is what I'm talking about. Okay? Because number one, Liberians feel the expert in everything. So someone who does not have any legal background like myself will try to tell somebody like Jerome Verdier, who is a legal scholar and expert, what kind of justice or what kind of judicial reform we need. And we need to stop that. Everybody has an area. It's called specialization. Of course, we know that many people today area is politics, general politics. But let's go to the expert. The reason why Liberia is not developing, or the reason why we haven't had a reform, is because people who have done no research, have no expertise in our areas, are the ones who are talking the loudest. So what I would suggest is if you talk to somebody on justice reform, I would want to go to people like Elijah Sayer in Liberia, people like Jerome Verdier. I don't have that kind of background. I can only refer to those people and to tell me, if we talk about historian, I'll go to somebody like Dennis Dodd. Tell me about the culture. Economically, I'll go to somebody like Dr. Gompu. Somebody who was Minister of Finance, Deputy Minister of Finance, who knows the ins and outs of the country. So once we get the right people around the table, which is what the movement to make Liberia better is trying to do, is to get people who have expertise in these different areas, draft a plan, all right, that is going to carry on that decentralization, so we don't end up like Kenya and end up like Nigeria, or even Ivory Coast, if you want to include them. And that's what we're trying to do, and we have not done that. What we've done is everybody talking about the problem, and hopefully that what we're trying to do again is to utilize these different. Somebody talk about central city-state government. You have Winfred Russell.
I don't understand.
I have a question for Alex, because you just talking around the issues here, Alex. In my opinion, you keep saying, "Oh, we have to do this. We have to come up with a plan." You're not the first person, by the way, that's proposing a plan, and your plan is not one of the most robust plans that we've seen. We've seen more robust plans than the things you are talking about in the past. The problem we've had in Liberia.
So tell me one plan that you're talking about, the most robust plan for decentralization, for economic development. Can you cite me?
When the war ended, let me just bring you quickly. When the war ended in Liberia, the blueprint for everything from rehabilitation to demobilization to building back our economic system was a sound one. I still have a copy of it.
Yeah, can you please follow what I said?
Oh, yeah,
what I am aware of, they had a interim poverty reduction strategy.
I'm not talking about poverty. I actually saw.
And they had a recommendation for the CRC report.
Okay, guys.
Can I just ask you my question, Alex? Alex, the poverty reduction strategy that was done under Ellen Johnson Sirleaf is one of the most comprehensive.
Hold on, Leo. Let's go to Desmond to have his.
No, but I got a question to ask.
No. Let Desmond weigh in on his final thoughts on this on the first the executive, and let's go into as soon as said this autonomous agency. Let's talk about election commission, the LACC, the GAC, and all those different other public corporation, everything else. What's the problem there, and how can we fix it?
All right, so the problem, I look at government. I don't know. First thing here, I would tell I would say this, and this is to Leo's point. I never joined a so poor society, be it good or bad or indifferent. I never joined a poor society, so I wouldn't know how the poor society or traditionally how our forefathers ran Liberia 2,000 years ago before Christ. I wouldn't know that, right? But what I do know is I know how government in places that in my lifetime or in recent modern history, how these government function and how they work. So to the point of like LACC, GACC, and the president's strength and the executive strength in appointing these people, somebody mentioned that earlier, right? It's a problem that it's something that I think about. I wrestle with this really. I think about it highly. Like, is it okay for the president to appoint judges? Is it okay for the president to appoint national election commissions and stuff like that? I think about it, but I also think so. I think the format for that is adequate, right? The president appoints, the Senate confirms. Our issue here is the strong man mentality in how much power that we possess in the executive, right? Because the lack of integrity that individuals have in the Senate as a body, right? Because of the lack of integrity in that body, produce what we have. The end result is the production of that. Makes the president even stronger. But do we want to have judges elected? I think that's the possibility too. Do we want to have people net elected? Who's going to count their election ballots, right? So we think about all these things. I think about it in a way. I think the format is adequate. The only problem that we have with that is having integral people in these positions to combat things that we don't even see or talk about. Like, for example, they got Wambu Dike, that's his name, right? The Nigerian guy. Wambu Dike is back working, right? He's at work, right? At LACC.
He sued the Liberian government on top of it. And of
course. And we should that's the beauty. That's the beauty of the law. That's the beauty of the law. You cannot tell a man that he can't sue. I would never sit here and argue against that. He sued the Liberian government. It's a tactic. By suing the Liberian government, the judge is going to put a case in, something called status quo ante, and that means everything goes back to static, and he goes back and keep his job until the case is heard, right? He has a bar review coming up. His lawsuit is very strategic because when the Liberian Bar Association comes up with a ruling, that ruling has a potential to be superseded by the courts. So that puts everything back until the case is heard. But the point I'm trying to make here is, like, we want to argue about all the way things are working. I always fundamental goes back to my original point that I raised. If you don't punish people for things that they do and they walk free, the next thing that person does is going to be greater than the thing they did before. I always tell people, a minister in Liberia didn't steal when he was a minister. He started stealing when he was a cadet. He went up to become a director that he stole more. When he became a deputy minister, he stole more. The system wants you to steal.
Well, who is supposed to punish that person, my brother? Who's responsible?
Who's responsible to punish the laws are responsible. What I'm saying here is the laws are there to punish these people, right?
Okay, that's the Minister of Justice and the Solicitor General appointed by the president. We have a Solicitor General in Liberia who was literally disbarred for criminal activity. Mm-hmm. So that's the man who is supposed to go now and prosecute someone for corruption?
I think Chuchu, you're doing it on an individual basis, and that's not even my argument. I'm not going to argue one a solicitor general versus another. I'm going to argue the position. The solicitor general, if that position is held by integral person, it wouldn't matter. It wouldn't matter because the position has to be there.
Law, sir, according to our laws, the president gets to choose who becomes the solicitor general, who becomes the minister of justice.
And the Senate confirms.
Gentlemen, has to confirm.
Gentlemen,
and the Senate did confirm, and the president did that.
Gentlemen,
so,
gentlemen,
how do you get away
let's
with
do
it? How do you
this.
find solutions? Is what we're looking here.
Hello, Alex. Gentlemen,
let's
let's do
not
this
finish this
again.
one.
Those watching us here on social media, hold on, gentlemen. Those watching us here on social media, this is Focus on Liberia. You are watching our Innovative and Solution series. We are discussing the topic, what changes in the executive, the judiciary, the legislative, what are the changes that you want to see in order for Liberia to move forward? That's what we are discussing. So if you just join the conversation, those of you watching here on YouTube, I share the number. You can call in to also participate. Gentlemen, we'll conclude on this segment, and I think we can keep this session this series going with the very panelists. I want us to go to the judiciary branch of government, but let me conclude on the recommendation I made, because somebody watching us is asking, they want to hear your recommendation. Leo said,
Mr. C. I want Desmond to finish his point.
Yeah, I didn't finish my point.
Yeah, and Desmond, what I want you to add is, you said punishment. We have been punishing people, right? In 1980, we killed people for corruption. That was punishment. When Doe took over, he put people on the pole literally and whipped them for corruption.
My pa went to jail for 3 months in Bella Yala.
Yeah.
And you know what has not changed? You know what has not changed? The governance structure has not changed. It remains constant.
So speak to that. Punishment.
Okay, punishment. When we say punishment, we're talking about somebody goes to jail, the person comes back from jail, and the person goes back in the same position. That's what I'm talking about. A serious database that when a person is caught for stealing, right, and that person is a convicted felon, there should be ramifications that that person can hold another job in that same line, same work or the same field. There should be ramifications for like you see Gibson. Like there was the first guy that was appointed to be a minister of justice, right? He took money from somebody was disbarred, and if it wasn't for UNMIL, he would have had that job. The president was willing to appoint him to go back to minister of justice, but UNMIL told the people no. So because that's my point. My point is not to put the man in jail. My point is the man should not be in that position ever in his lifetime. Yeah, he goes about it.
So I got one last question for you.
Thank you. No, let me take
one clarification.
Let's go back to Sunni.
Before we go.
All right, folks, Mr. Kunin, we deny that clarification. We have to go to the next segment. Let us conclude. This is what you guys propose. In order to solve the problem under the executive branch of government, Leo said, you have to change the constitution because the constitution, using his word, does not make sense. And then he also talked about budgeting. He said we have, I'm just paraphrasing here, he said we have to reinvent the way we do budgeting so that it can reflect all the counties. And that's the way we can make change under the executive. Desmond says accountability. You got to punish bad behavior and reward good behavior. And he went further by saying, it's not only just putting the man in jail if the person committed a crime, maybe for example, Minister of Finance, that person should not be appointed in the Liberian government anymore. If you do that, people will see reason to say, I'm not going to exhibit that behavior. Mr. Cooney and Mr. Jones, both of them are like decentralized. That is
no, Mr. C, we have a
no. You're not with me on decentralized.
Working. What I did was I referred people to our website.
You guys are hijacking me, man. I'm concluding the segment.
And you
can make clarification when we move to the next segment.
And it has a comprehensive reform strategy.
Alex Jones said we should all come together.
Yeah.
Correct.
We should all come together.
Specialization.
Mr.
But
John,
we
I
shouldn't
know
question other
Mr.
professionals.
Jones. I read
Correct.
his website last night.
Just
The
making a
crumbs,
summary.
and what I said, the crumbs of his point
It's
is
just a
to
summary.
decentralize. And
No,
that's the
that's not
same
true.
crumbs of Mr.
No,
Kuhn's recommendation.
we have 5 points. We said that we should have an independent anti-corruption commission. We
Okay.
should have an independent board of health and education. We should have an independent central bank.
But you never
So
told
we're
us
not
any of
looking at
that
the problem
here.
from one level, and that's the problem in Liberia. We look at one
But that was you didn't say all that.
Any of that here.
and if
And
you
I
go
You,
to
will
the
say
you
to
didn't say
you,
all
to
that.
make Liberia better.org, they are all laid out, and we're calling on all
You
the
said we should all come around the table. So I asked you about
Right.
4.5 million.
No,
So go
I'm
ahead,
calling
Mr.
on
CEO, conclude.
Dennis Johnson, Mr. Coney, the people who are interested and who have the ability. Let's work together to find a solution. That's what I'm saying.
how
All
will
right.
you do that if you don't even want us to question fellow professionals? If
All
you
right,
take every-
then I will have to give, to be fair, I have to give Mr. Kune to conclude his point, and then we can move to the next segment.
Exactly.
You know, Kuni can complain.
Alex, my young brother, you vacillating. You want us to come together to find these solutions, but at the same time, you don't even want us to question the basic assumption that each of us coming here with, because according to you, we are professionals. If somebody is a legal scholar, since I'm not a lawyer, I cannot even apply my rational thinking to what the person is proposing. All of the things you're talking about, I still think you can have all the independent, whatever name you call it. If you put them in the centralized state that we have as we have it today, they will produce the same result. If we don't break down the power structure, you will not have a different
I see you
result.
tomorrow. I pack my bag. I'll pass. Can I parry? Let me. Yeah, please. Sorry, guys.
So that's what I'm saying.
All right, thank you, gentlemen, again for watching us here on social media. I'm Anthony here co-hosting with Mr. Dennis Jai, and this is Focus on Liberia. This is our innovative and solution series, and we are trying to identify the problem in each of these different sectors of our government and make a recommendation, and how would that recommendation be able to help. We are moving forward. We just dealt with the executive. Now we are going to the legislative branch of government. And at this time, I will give it over to my partner here, Mr. Jai, to lead the section. Mr. Jai.
First of all, Mr. Kuni, in this session, don't complain.
You had dropped out the last session, so let's give other people chance.
Okay.
The same way we spoke about the executive. Now we come to our senators and representatives. So looking there, let's identify the problem. What is the problem? What is the solution you're proposing, and how does that solution address the issue, the problem that you're trying to solve? Okay, so for this, let me start with Mr. Chuchu June. This time now, anything that's on, we are not going to read a website right here. So give it to us right here, Chuchu.
Well, what we're saying is, again, we've taken the initial step. We have a problem in our legislative branch of government, as we do in all the other governments. One of the problems we have is that, one, people in the House of Representatives do not really represent the constituents. And Mr. Coney said, one, because they're distant away from the people. That's one reason. Furthermore, they're incompetent, most of them. And because our law says that anyone can get out of the bush and they come and become representatives so long people vote for him, there's no minimal requirement. So anybody can win election. So Prince Johnson won election. So what we're saying is that, one, that we need
Mr. Jones, you use the word bush. Take somebody from the bush. Please explain that.
What I mean, all of the woodwork. What I mean is all of the woodwork. Somebody can just come and stand tomorrow, buy bags of rice for people,
right. And
once he wins, get so many votes as a result of buying rice for people or giving people money. He's a legislator with all the rights and privileges, because our election commission, right, have not gone active rules where there should be a just, you're going to be writing laws, at least you must know to read the laws. If you be felony, you must not be someone who have committed crime, heinous crime, and now people vote for you. So the reform is that our election commissioner now we set some basic minimum and qualifications on who can. The person has to be someone of high, what you call good character. The person should not have someone in crimes and murders and things like that. So we're saying comprehensive reform. You cannot just you cannot just say, all right, we need good people. You can't legislate morality. You can't look in the sky and say, well, when we get good legislator, then the country will be better. You have to put in the requirement and the check and balances to make sure that you don't get the worst person to become a legislator in our government. And so that's what we're proposing. We're saying that the what you call the election commission should be 15 members. They should be selected by the public, so it's not political. That the president don't come and points his switches onto the commission. That we have a review board. Yeah, and that's for all positions. The answer, the election commissioner, which is responsible for every election, whether local election, whether for judges, whether for legislators, they will be the one to set in the basic requirement, and they will not be appointed by the president, or they cannot be recalled by the president. It will be a process by the general Liberian public that will nominate people that have good standing and have.
Mr. Jones, let me stop you.
That's our recommendation.
Let me stop you. So in just one word, what is the problem you see with the legislative branch of government?
They're not regulated, and anybody can become legislator in Liberia, whether they buy elections or not, and we need to be stopped.
And to fix that?
And to fix that, we have a strong election commissioner, and that will be selected by the public, and that wouldn't cater to parties or cater to the president, and that process will be through the general public.
Thank you. And let me make some correction, because the word Bush has a history behind it. So maybe you use it innocently, but
no. I hope it's not offensive. What I mean, out of the woodwork. Someone just coming out tomorrow and showing up. So let me be very clear about that. That's what I mean.
Let me go to Mr. Desmond. I think he's situated now. Mr. Desmond,
yeah, I'm situated.
On the legislative branch of government, what's the problem? How do you solve it?
So my recommendation is simple. I like to stay within the current confines of what the laws are and see how we can structurally change things, right? So for me, when I think about a legislature, the first thing I think the problem here is the lack of understanding and knowledge. Our current constitution does not give anybody, doesn't say you should have, which I agree with anyways, you should have a level of degree, a level of understanding to be a legislator, should be a lawyer or not. I don't think the constitution doesn't do that, which I agree, it's fine. But what I think that's lacking for a solution to that, for the lack of knowledge or something like that, what I think the solution to that is equipping the legislature with funding where they can hire technocrats to do their bidding on laws and act when laws and stuff come about. Like people always say there were 64 concessions signed by Ellen, only one was good, right? The reason why 64 was signed and one was good, because when the paper coming from the people that's supposed to read it, if you go to a legislature office, you go to a lawmaker or representative office, the person at his research staff is a high school graduate from his village. The person, his secretary, is his cousin or his wife's sister. The other person is this other person. So no technocrats work in these offices because, number one, you can afford to pay them. They make the highest paid, I think, legislative staff is about $500-600. So if these people if they had the funding, I think, I'm not saying they may not use it, but I think that my idea for this is just a grand scheme of thinking now. What are the technical parts can be worked out. I believe there should be funding for these people to have the ability to hire technocrats to do the work, serious legislative work.
And there are funding, sir. Maybe you're not aware, but they do have a budget for that. They choose not to hire qualified.
No. I'm quite aware. The highest paid legislative staff is $500. I'm quite aware.
The legislator has the budget for which they can allocate. They're paying themselves $15,000. They can take some of the $15,000 and pay
that's a choice. I don't want to give them a choice. I want it to be legal.
But they can pass a law. The legislator, they can pass a law.
Just
hold
listen,
on, Alex.
Just listen, Alex. Just listen. I'm not saying they can or they couldn't. That is the problem. That's what I'm telling you. It is a problem. The solution, that's what I'm giving you. They can pass a law. They can decide to cut the salary like they just did recently. Whatever they want to do, they can do. But you suggesting that they can just cut their salary and do this. That's their salary. It's coming to them. They take it out of their pocket. That's their decision. But if it was law, there's nothing you can do when something is law. If it's law, it has to be done. Minister of Finance, if it was law.
I disagree. I think they have enough money and they have too much money.
Hold on, Alex.
They shouldn't be getting
Alex,
any more money.
right?
Hold on, Alex.
The key word that you just use is you think. The fact that you think it doesn't make it facts, right? The fact of the matter is, a man has a salary. If it was law, Minister of Finance, when they're drafting the budget, will have a budget line for these people, for these technocrats to be paid from. If that was law, that's my point.
So let me ask you now. So do you think that they have less money?
Desmond, you are saying those technocrats should be recruited by the same lawmakers that are recruiting the offended people from the village.
All right. So the way I look at it is this, right? So now we're going to the nuance of it. The way I'm thinking about it is like this. So if you're a lawmaker, every lawmaker should have a person of legal capabilities on the staff. So you're not limiting it to say you can only hire. So you got to have one legal staff, one economic staff, and one, let's say, management, something like that. So you have 3 staffs for every lawmaker. Now, if the lawmaker has to recruit themselves, or you can set up another, which is again creating bigger government, create another staff through the Senate or the House of Representatives office to hire these people. Where the lawmaker don't have, he may be the one that do the interview, but the selection process will have to go to an outside agency or somebody through the House to do that. But to answer this guy question, asking whether they have too much money or they don't have too much money, the way I look at it is like this, right? You pay. Let me tell you what the money thing is. I know Alex probably knows this, but I will say it again. The lawmakers started making $15,000 after, I think, 2014, 15, around there. Not 2014, 15, I lied. I think 2011. Prior to that, they were making smaller money. But the ministers at the time, the ministers were making 10,000 plus in their salaries, right? So it was a thing that, whether it was right or wrong, the process in this was this. You cannot tell me you have oversight over me in Liberia and then I make more money than you. That's where the 15,000 salary came from. That was the idea. Whether it was right or wrong, it was the process that if these people that I have the right to oversee are making more money than me, they don't care. So that's where that came from. So right or wrong, if you want me to ask the question, are they making too much money? I think they are making too much money. I think most people in Liberia make too much money.
Okay, so that's just my point. They get for information, they get 14% of the national budget, between $40 and $44 million every year. And you're telling me that that's not enough money for them to figure out how to get competent staff when there's.
I never said that.
No,
don't put words in my mouth.
That's not his point.
But don't put words in my mouth. I never said that.
That's not his point. Let me go to Leo.
Yes, sir. I love this one because I like to say this is the real meat. Because a lot of people forget that our system of government, one of the most, the legislature is the first branch of government. We've put so much, unknowing to ourselves, people have put so much power into the executive that we've forgotten that real power is within the legislature, within their pens, and whatever else they have to do. Here's the problem. Let me start with the problem. The first problem is this. There is no clear line of delineation when it comes to what is the job descriptions of our legislators. People who take on that job, there is no prerequisite or requirement. So you have to assume that majority of the people being elected to our legislature have no idea of what it means to sit in the legislature. They have no idea what it means.
Hold on, Leo. The Constitution gave us a requirement. You are saying there's no requirement.
No, if I say there is no requirement, I'm talking about qualifications.
Oh, okay,
in the
go
people
ahead.
that are sitting. That's what I meant. Sorry, I didn't mean in that line.
They don't give us that too.
What is the qualification?
Yeah.
The age requirement is a qualification, Leo.
So technical qualifications. Please help me understand the technical qualifications. Then I haven't seen it before.
All right, you quantify it. So I mean, you qualify it, so we understand now.
It is a technical job. Lawmaking is a technical job. No, lawmaking is a technical job. Let me get that clear. It's lawmaking. You are making law.
Go ahead, Leo.
So let's get it clear. You're making laws. That's why they call them lawmakers. So it's not about having political rhetorics and lyrics. It's about writing laws that are finite, definitive, and clear. So when I meant qualification,
laws aren't clear though.
I meant the technical ability of these people being able to make laws. There is no way to determine the people who get elected, whether they are capable of making laws or writing bills or passing bills or not. So when they get in there, obviously, I can clearly tell you from the functioning of our legislature, most of the people that don't know their job descriptions, most of them become philanthropists. Most of them start building roads and building schools. So they take the Ministry of Public Works job, they take the Ministry of Education job, they take the Ministry of Health job, most of them running their own schools. Most of them running their own, and they are running it on their legislative budgets. Most of them running their own clinics. There are members of our legislature that run their private clinic, and some of their clinics are apportioned government money. So that's some of the problem. The next problem I'll list before I go to the solution is that we were meant to copy exactly what the U.S. Legislature looks like. Unfortunately, we copied the system, but we did not copy the tools needed to allow our legislature to function. So we want to talk the part that said they must do this, but we've never equipped. I can't remember the time that we've equipped our legislature. Let's talk so and talk so. We've gone against them for the corruption. We've gone against them for the lack of oversight, but we've never talked about if they have been equipped with the tools which is required by government to actually do that. Let me come to the solution. So those are my problems that I have identified. When it comes to the solutions, the first thing, instead of following the pasted United States Constitution, the whole legislature, in my opinion, needs to be reorganized to reflect the context of Liberia. And here is the context.
So what is the context of Liberia?
I'm coming. Just let me get to it. I'm coming to it. So the context of Liberia for me, instead of creating a body that is supposed to represent the politicking of the day, we are supposed to create a body that is reflective of the realities of regions and not based on the politics of the day. So let me tell you the reality of Liberia when I say the context of Liberia. The context of Liberia is this. Number one, the Liberian government itself does not have the budgetary requirement to have the number of legislators that we have sitting. It's a waste of taxpayers' money. We don't have the ability to have those many legislators serving as legislators for 4.5 million people. That's too many.
I don't think that's a context.
Let me just finish. That's a context. The country is too small. It's
Continue.
4.5 million people. Our context is not 20 million people. It's not 40 million people. Number two, the next context of Liberia is the salary scale that they make. The legislators, the parliamentarians in Ghana make around $4,000 a month, and the Ghanaians are crying underneath it. So the Ghana budget is about, I think, 10 or 13 billion dollars. The Ghanaian government budget, they make about 4,000. Ours is 500 million. And at one point, our legislators were collecting $15,000 a month, higher than even what some US senators are making. So the context of Liberia, what I'm talking about is that. Another thing, there has to be a clear line of functionality drawn between the Senate and the House of Representatives. Right now, it looks like all of them are just doing the same, even though the Constitution gives some particular things like the Senate can confirm, the House of Representatives can impeach, the House of Representatives can do revenue or bills. Still, when you look at the both houses in Liberia right now, is that everybody running to who would be the greatest philanthropist, everybody running who would distribute the most bag of rice, everybody running who would be the loudest. The most important for me on this, we should create this legislative training bureau responsible to train and orient legislatures upon election, because it's a job that is difficult to have prior preparation for. In any country that you go to, most countries, even where I live, there is a bureau set up. Anybody who gets elected into the parliament here in Canada, you have your first 6 months of training. You go into the bureau, it's like school. You go there for them to train you as to what is your job responsibility as a legislature. What are the tools you need to use? How do these tools work? What is your responsibility? And in that training is where they determine their office staff. Things like who's supposed to be your budget officer. And these things, and some of them are not supposed to be to individual senators and legislatures. There's supposed to be a bureau when the budget comes down that is responsible for helping our senators and representatives understand what decisions they're actually making and do the necessary research. The last thing I will say is this bureau should be permanent. There should be a permanent website or repository where all decisions of our legislature and the day-to-day processes are there permanently that anybody can just go to. Our legislature operates like a voodoo. Nobody can find, you want anything to go back to, you can't find it. There's nowhere you can go to find it if you're not lucky to be connected to one of them.
Mr. Johnson. we often talk about the power of the people, okay, and say contrary, government by the people. So you were saying that the major problem is there is no clear job description for the legislators. They don't meet the minimum requirement, if I can paraphrase. But these people are elected, okay, because the voters have the power. Yep. So can the voters not see that, okay, this person is not qualified, doesn't meet the minimum requirement to become a, so that's our problem, unless you don't want this to be the government of the people now.
No, so what I'm not saying they cannot be elected because of the lack of qualification. That's why I say you need a bureau. I'm saying the problem is we are electing these people and we have no tools. We've given them no tools to be able to function. Even if they are qualified, even if you got a PhD, being elected into the legislature is a whole new foray for you. So not because someone has a PhD in literature, or because someone has a PhD in English, or because someone has a master's in economics, when you're elected to the legislature, you'll be able to function. That's an institution that is unique to its core. So what I'm saying is, give them the tools. We haven't done that. We've always chastised them.
And Leo, but this is not unique.
So can I ask a question?
Ask a question.
I just want to ask. So you're saying that since we copied and pasted the American Constitution, we should paste Canada's format now because they got a bureau in Canada. We should paste that now.
No, I said you should create a bureau in Liberia that is responsible.
Because Canada has a bureau. No. You reference it.
But another country. Canada is not another country that has it.
Hold on, Leo, let me ask this question.
I want to get to my point. My point here is my point is going back to what your original comment from the last section, right?
Ask a question.
You're talking about our traditional and the context. You're saying that. My question to you is quite simple. You said we should go like Canada has a 6 months preparation process. America for the new recruits, they have a 3 weeks process. So are you saying since we copy and paste in America, that's the problem we had, now we should copy and paste Canada too now?
No, I'm saying you use it. Okay, let me answer the question now. You asked a question. Can you let me answer?
Sure, yeah.
I think you answer it.
No, don't copy and paste. I'm saying use it as a model. That's how people write. Use the model and create your own. That's what we should have done with our Constitution. We should have used the American Constitution as a model, look at it, and then create our own, but not copy and paste it. That's plagiarism.
Thank you.
All right. Leo, let me ask the question, then we go to the other panelists. The term for our lawmaker has been another subject of debate. Any solution you want to recommend on the term?
Yeah, I believe, first of all, in anywhere in the world, 9 years is too long a term. I believe our Senate term should be 4 years each, and members of the House of Representatives should be 2 years. Every 2 years, they should be held accountable, in my opinion. And including, I know we've talked about the executives, but I think the Senate term should align with the executives to 4 years, to a 4-year term. The president term should be reduced to 4 years as well, the Senate to 4 years, and then members of the House of Representatives to every 2 years, which will strengthen the level of accountability that can happen, again, government by the people.
Leo, don't forget now, you talk about money, that we don't have that much money to do all these things. Now you are talking about election every 2 years. That's a lot of money that we may not be able to afford.
Yeah, the only reason why you don't have that money, we all know, we have the ability to raise that money. It's gross mismanagement. Nobody should say we don't. We actually do. We have 4.5 million people. If you take just Liberia itself by its raw or natural resources, let's forget about the productivity of people because we don't have a very productive population. If you just take that into proper management, we do have the funding, we do have the ability to raise the money, even with the international community dumping in billions. We still mismanage it still. So the issue is not a lack of money. The issue is gross mismanagement by our leaders.
Thank you. Finally, Leo, if I may, the presidency, one can only go 2 terms or run twice. What's about the lawmakers? You have any recommendation there? Okay.
Yeah, I agree. I think no lawmaker should be allowed to serve more than 3 terms. If you spend 3 terms in the legislature and you're not able to make the kind of impact that you should make, that means we should question your ability. And number 2, look at our lawmakers. How many of them have passed bills? Think about the laws. Even the Constitution can catch them by surprise when certain things jump up. Look at the history of our legislature. Very few laws are being made or being structured when Liberia is in a constitutional crisis itself. So it tells you that they've gone far away from their actual job that they're supposed to be doing, and they turn it into a place of national philanthropy.
All right. Again, folks in cyberspace, you're watching Focus on Liberia. This is our solution and innovative series We are on the legislative branch of government. Yeah, the legislative branch of government, and we want to know what the problems are or what is the problem and what can be a solution that can help solve that problem. Let me come to Mr. Cooning. Somebody like to call him the intellectual heavyweight. Mr. Cooning, are you ready for me? I got a political bitter ball for you.
Toss it. Go ahead. Toss it ahead.
The man is on mute, so he's not ready. Hey, Mr. Cooning, here is the thing.
Hello?
Yeah, you are all right now, Mr. Cooning. So
They have a bill of
lawmakers, these people are our direct representatives. When we say power is inherent in the people, that power has been given to them to represent us. The place I want to put you, push you is on the issue of their oversight responsibility. Are you satisfied? Is there a problem there? And what would be your solution? Tough one.
Okay, first of all, I'm not satisfied with the oversight responsibility. I'm not.
Okay.
But the major problem that faces the legislature is the lack of self-awareness as to who they are. They are not actually aware of who they are. Like you rightly said, these are the direct representative of the Liberian people. This is where we, the power, we, the people, actually is. It is the legislature. All of these things we're talking about, some of them can be resolved by a legislature that is fully aware of its function, of its role. You know, sometimes we got to listen to our leaders, people who have more experiences than us. The other day, I listened to Dr. Amos Sawyer, that based on the history of the country, the legislature has always been declared irrelevant. It is not only in these times. There were always what he called these statement people that have always played the function of the legislature. And he gave the example that even in the impeachment of the so-called deposition of Roy, it was not done by the legislature. It was done by other people other than the legislature. So one of the first problems is that the legislature is not aware, does not have that self-awareness of what that body is. That's one of the problems. So the legislature allow itself to be kicked around by the executive and other branches of government. In the past 12 years, we saw a speaker of the legislature that was removed twice through manipulation from the other branch of government. We saw various contracts that were signed through manipulations from other branches of government. So it is that lack of self-awareness of their own functions and of their own role. We complain about budget. You know, my brother Leo talked about transparency in the budget. Who's supposed to demand the executive for that kind of disclosure? Supposed to be our legislature. The legislature has the confirmatory authority for presidential appointees. They are failing in all of these things. So that is one of the problems. But the second problem I have with the legislature is that they don't live in the constituency that they represent. They don't live there. There is a law that they must be domiciled for election, but after election, they don't live there. They live in another constituency that they don't represent. So that's part of the problem. So they're not consulting with their people the way they're supposed to consult with their people. Now, for me, sometimes some of the reform we want, I agree with my brother Terry, we have to do it within the current system. A legislature in Liberia, after election, you are required to employ, I think, up to 16 people. But there should be some requirement that at least 3 or 4 of those people should be real technocrats that will be recruited through some independent means that will serve that particular representative. You're talking about somebody with legal knowledge, somebody with economic knowledge, somebody with political knowledge. Like the brother said, the highest paid legislative staff is about $500. Who are you really going to get to go work for $500 to analyze a concession agreement? Who's going to really work for $500 to analyze an impeachment document? So the level of money you pay the person determines your staffing level. It determines your staffing level. So we need some of these changes. Look, I work with the city of Philadelphia. There is a position they call executive assistant. You take the test, you pass the test, you are qualified to be executive assistant to any city commissioner. You can be executive assistant to the commissioner of police. You can be executive assistant to the commerce department. So we need something like that. And that's why I agree with Brother Desmond. Some level of the legislative staff need to be professionalized so that they can do some professional work.
Mr. Cooney.
Let me make the last point. I disagree with my brother.
Mr. Cooney, when we're calling your attention, give a break.
I've been quiet. Don't give me chance. I disagree with my brother who said lawmakers are technocrats. No, they're not. They are politicians. Politicians may not have any training other than people fighting to represent the people. This is why you find he use Canada. Let's find in the US. We all watch legislative hearing here. When the people doing their presentation, you see the staff that got the relevant knowledge, giving them graphs, giving them information. This is where the hiring of the professional staff comes in. That will inform the legislature. You don't want to quote this that
I didn't say they were technocrats, Mr. Cooney.
Hold on, let me finish.
Yeah. When you see Mitch McConnell quoting numbers, you think that Mitch McConnell himself find it? The legislative staff to those people are well paid. You know,
okay,
so these are some of the things. So for me, the solution first, there should be this creation of self-awareness as to who they are because they have a larger responsibility. I think they should live in the constituency that elect them and start treating their constituency like foster children that they have to make mandated visits to. And I also disagree that they're not being given the equipment. Look, let me tell you something. Some of our international partners gave our legislators voting equipment to record vote. Instead of going, hey, they gave them equipment to record a vote. Guess what? They set it aside.
Who will maintain it? Who will install it and maintain it?
Oh, the people who gave it to them should go and install it and maintain it?
That's the government's job. That's why it's supposed to be a responsibility. You're not supposed to be a gift. Somebody bringing a random gift.
I'm just reporting you that they don't have equipment. I'm giving you an instance where equipment was given them and they consciously set it aside.
No, it's not sustainable. It's not sustainable. It's a gift. Somebody can give you one gift. So when it's spoiled, how you get a new one?
But it didn't spoil. I'm saying they set it aside.
Because nobody was there to install it, equip it, and run it 24/7.
No, you are speculating. You're speculating.
And that's what you are speculating. Why they set it aside?
It's a fact.
So why did they set it aside? Why did they set it aside?
Because they don't want to use it. They don't want their vote to be.
So you are speculating.
To be recorded. You ask me a question. Let me answer it. They don't want their vote to be recorded. They don't want to be held accountable for their vote. So they.
Do you have evidence of that? That's why they set it aside.
Because that's what the machine does.
But that's why they set it aside. Do you have an evidence for that?
That's what the machine does. The machine records votes.
Hold on, Leo. All right, Mr. Cooney.
Yeah.
Mr. Cooney. My question to you is, you said the legislators, they lack self-awareness. First, tell me why. First, tell me why is that, and how someone who lacks self-awareness, how they got there? Won't you? Will you mind giving us some prognosis about how they get there, the process? Do you have any recommendation on how people get elected to be legislators, and how we can change that so we don't have people who lack self-awareness to be our representatives?
The self-awareness is as to their legislative function, what they're supposed to be doing. How do they get elected? Look, the system of electing our people is set by our constitution. And this is where I think political parties and other advocates need to, because it is our responsibility to educate voters. It is not a man who went get elected job to tell voters, well, I don't meet the qualifications, so don't elect me or this and that. That is where you find political parties. This is where you find interest groups, civil society organizations. This is where you find other civic leaders to educate our people to know the importance of their vote, so that when they're making these 6 years, 9 year decisions, they can know what that vote means.
All right. Let's come to Mr. Ellis Chuchu Jones. Ellis Chuchu Jones, another problem of the many problems people have been talking about with our legislative branch of government is the issue of brand envelopes. Some people say, where you coming from with your brand envelope? Well, it exists. It's a problem. I'm sure you agree with me. how do we solve that problem, and any other problem you may have identified.
Well, I think Mr. Seed, Liberia is a serious issue uh, in Liberia, and I think we trivialize it and we take it for joke. And then tomorrow, when that country inflamed into chaos, then we'll be praying in front of the churches and the mosques. Liberia has a serious problem. And I think serious people need to be involved. And serious people need to sit down and solve that problem for our children, our grandchildren. It's not a joke. People is being killed. I think you were just on your program, Mensa, the little child that was scorched in hot water. Every day reports are coming out of brutality. And, you know, I would hate to waste my time behind just going on media programs just for the sake of being there. I don't think at the stage where we need serious solutions. The country needs to be reformed. That's the bottom line. Sitting down here and talking about one or two issues is not going to solve Liberia's problem. Okay? Because the whole structure from the fundamentals of the country, you have a constitution that says the only two requirements that somebody has to become a legislator, the most honorable decision-making body, is one, you got to live in a county or constituent for 1 year, and two, you got to be 25 or 30 years old. It's in our constitution. I can be a criminal, I can do whatever, so long I meet those two requirements, and the people vote for me, it's fine. Then we worry now when we start having these problems in Liberia where we elect idiots, okay? People who basically, not just idiots, but criminals. Somebody like Bani Shema, who's caught on camera for embezzlement, publicly, internationally. We call him a senator and call him honorable. And then we sit on television and on Facebook and we joke about these things while children in Liberia are dying from hunger, from all kinds of malnourishment, lack of education. We need to be serious. We need to be serious because that country is going to disintegrate just like Somalia. It's already happening. There are people who are dedicating their lives. This young man, Mr. Coney, talked about, they have pressure groups. They have advocacy. When the advocacy and the pressure groups come out, right, to start to talk about some of the things that needs to be changed in our country, these are the same people who will say, no, let's go to election. The whole entire constitution is a trash. It will never produce anything because it was created for the dictatorial regime of Samuel Doe, people like Todman and Kings and all these people. And we sit here, we think that just going and changing one little law that will make that country. Look, there are lots of countries in Africa that has come from poverty. And today, these countries, the living standard in this country can be compared to Asia. One country is Botswana, Zambia, Rwanda. And we sit in Liberia here, we sit on the television and the thing, all we want to talk about is, oh, this politics, oh, this political party. We don't have no political party in Liberia as far as I'm concerned. Because the purpose of a political party is to bring change. What change have we had in real change? Constitutional reform, real economic reform in Liberia since the inception. They see we just take one group of people, we move them, and everybody like, this is my time to come. So if we really want to talk about innovation, which I think is the topic today, okay, then we shouldn't be regurgitating the problem. We should not go to election. One solution, there should be no more election called in Liberia unless there is complete constitutional reform in Liberia. There's a complete restructure of the election commissioner. If we have to boycott all the elections, so be it. Those are the kinds of revolution we need to bring change.
So
those are the things we're calling for. We want complete.
That's really loaded and draconian in the first thing. But anyway,
but no revolution can come. What are you?
Exactly. You want? Why are you?
Let me just finish our land.
Can I ask you a question before you finish?
Okay.
No, Alex, go ahead. Let Alex land. Desmond, let Alex land, please.
He has a question, so let me let him.
Oh, okay. Go ahead, Desmond.
I want to ask you one question. Alex, my question is, where are you right now? I'll follow up on it.
You came in terms of what?
Where are you sitting right now? Where are you?
Oh, like I said,
presently, where are you?
we're working with a lot of people who have been working for many years in Liberia and in America to bring about change. One person who have really taken the initiative.
My question is, where are you?
In terms of what? Now I don't get it. What's the significance of that?
I know you have a network. No, yeah, are you in America or anywhere else? You're in America, right?
It doesn't matter. I think it's irrelevant. What I'm saying here is, do we need total reform or not? I don't think whether I'm in Canada, America, Japan, or Tokyo, that matters. The substance of what I'm saying, does it make any sense for us to take a constitution that literally gives all the power to the president, for us to take a constitution that literally say that the only two requirements for you to become a lawmaker is for you to stay in the county prior to the election 1 year? Does that make sense? Does that matter where I am? Even if I'm not in Liberia, does that really matter? We should be talking on the substance of issues to make our country better. And let's just stop this whole, for the camera.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. Thank you. Thank you. Your point well made right there. We should talk about substance. Let me come to you, Desmond. You are asking Mr. Jones' question. I don't know what the essence of your question.
My point here is this, right? I would say this, and I say it all the time, right? Every time, the difference between what Alex is saying and myself right now is this. It's just plain cut simple. Alex wants to throw the baby out with the bathwater, right? I just want to take the baby from the bathwater and throw the water outside. I want to work within the confines of what we have right now to structure these things. It's quite simple. The lawmakers have, right now, the law says 20 or 25-year-old and live in a district for a year. You read an amendment. So you add to that amendment, what will add on it? Criminal.
But isn't that what we've been doing? But let me
man.
Desmond, I got a question for you, Desmond. Just to that point.
Go ahead.
You people, we keep making recommendations to keep amending a constitution that is fundamentally was written for about 20% of the entire population originally. When the Liberian constitution was being written, let me just go back.
When was it written?
Say that? 1847, and it was then.
No, the Constitution wasn't written 1847.
When was it written?
It was written 1985.
No, it was revised. The Constitution was revised 1985. How was the Constitution written? It was revised. It was not written.
It was okay, continue.
Let Desmond make a point, and then you can come in.
No, I was making a point. He said it wasn't written 1847, and the reason why I stopped. And it was written. The Constitution was originally written 1847. It was revised in 1985 when the PRC came in power and took over because of things they wanted to actually change. So I keep saying when the Constitution was written.
I disagree.
Leo.
Okay, you can correct me. Sorry.
It was drafted 1983 and revised 1985.
Sorry, 1985. So, but the Constitution, original Liberian Constitution, was written 1847.
But we're not under that. We're not under that.
No, I'm coming. Is that true?
That's true.
And the Constitution that was drafted in 1983, was it based on the 1847 Constitution?
The 1847 Constitution was abolished.
No, but the Constitution that was written at that thing, was it based on, it was abolished, but why was it abolished?
I don't know.
Because it was irrelevant. It was
so the Constitution that was written in 1983, it said a brand new Constitution void of anything in the 1847 Constitution. I got both of them before me, and most of the things inside are very similar. I got both of them right here.
Oh man, you don't argue like that.
So no, listen up. You guys are saying 98.
No.
Mr. Cooney, let me make my point. Mr. Cooney, let me make my point. I've read both constitutions, and both constitutions, basically, they changed all of the things that were considered draconian in the 1847 Constitution. I agree. It was revised.
Okay, go ahead.
Come in,
I just want you to tell me, if a brand new constitution based on nothing about 1847 Constitution was written in 1983, then I will submit. But let me make
it was not brand new. It was based on that.
Exactly. It was based on that. So let me make my point. My point here is when President Doe took over the drafting of the Constitution in 1983, we all knew it was clearly as a result of the PRC government trying to make sure they legalize more. You people say it all the time. That's why the 1983 Constitution started barring people who are out of the country from coming back in the country to even run. That was the reason why the 1983 Constitution looks the way it is today. So I am saying that Constitution is flawed, and we cannot keep tinkering on the edges and changing one or two things here. Our Constitution needs to be.
Then you got to introduce a revolution.
No revolution. Mr. Cooney, you've been tinkering on the edges since when? And we've been playing with our future till some of us are about to turn old people without knowing who we are, without even knowing anything about our own country, because those who know the history of our country have refused to put it out there for us.
Thank you.
Can I make a point?
Y'all keep in mind, this is my time. Y'all keep in mind, this is my time to go.
And Desmond, you are bringing this thing here to a point where, going back and forth. You have your time to make your point. Let's go around. If your turn, you make your point, the other person can come. So Desmond, you go.
Okay, so I would say this, right? I would say this, right? I told you I disagree. My disagreement is this. I don't want to throw the whole bucket away, the baby with the bath water. I want to take the baby from the bath water and throw the water away, right? So I think the fundamental difference we're having here, some people want to just throw the whole baby in the bath water outside and then start from scratch. I think that's fine. What format do they have to work on these things? You're just saying write a whole new.
Maybe that's a question you should have asked.
We can answer the question.
Not just to me.
Can Desmond make a point and you guys can come in? Please.
If I just said it, then I just asked the question clearly, right? So
you I just said it. You're making a statement. What question do they have? It's not a question. It's a statement.
Can Desmond land, and then we'll go around, please.
All right. So bottom line here is this. I believe when it comes to the legislature, I will address the point of the legislature. When it comes to the legislature, there are a lot of issues with the legislature. I said it before. One easy fix is this: creating a method or manner in which you can hire prevalent, serious technocrats to do these jobs, right? I'll give you a typical example. When this lady accused, Brett Kavanaugh for sexual harassment, right? When he was up to be a Supreme Court judge, what did the Republican Senate do? They hired a lady lawyer to ask this lady the questions, because they're all men, and they're all men that couldn't address that kind of subject without being chauvinistic about it. So what did they hire? A woman. So if you take a body and hire professional people to do these professional jobs, we'll have less. Because you cannot have, you can't solve no problem. You have less problems than you have.
So
can he just land? Gentlemen, stop this. Can he just land?
Yeah, so
go ahead. Mr. Jones, you're not a host. You shouldn't be asking questions. Let the man land.
Exactly.
Yeah. But the man was asking me a question and I answered his question politely. So why can't he answer my question?
I listen to your question, sir.
Okay. My question to you: if you're going to hire professional, competent people to advise the idiots, then why don't you just elect the professional, competent people?
That's the basis of politics. That's the nature and the basis of politics. Not even other countries. Not other countries. Not other countries. Donald Trump is our president. Donald Trump is the president of
educated.
Alex, let me answer the question.
All right, gentlemen, let's just go around.
That'll come in, because if I don't come in,
question, it will make the whole thing chaotic. Please. People are listening to us and they need to be able to follow, but too much back and forth not necessary.
I'm sure the man is this. It's America. Donald Trump is the president of America. The people we elect who they feel they want to elect. If you have technocrats, you keep your government moving.
Thank you.
Can I come in?
Let's go to Mr. Cooney.
You know, if I hear what I'm hearing correctly from my two younger brothers on this show, it's part of the problem that we have. That there is a certain elite that knows it all, and their solution should be the solution. Our constitution is created in a way that the power resides in the people. The people elect whoever they want to elect. That's the law. Now they're saying the constitution is irrelevant. The entire thing needs to be thrown away. From my little experience, the way an entire constitution can be thrown away, except the entire system of governance collapses. Then we throw away, we start doing a new one. You know, there is this thinking that has emerged lately. There's this thinking that has emerged lately, which is very dangerous. That given the current political situation, or maybe our most recent political situation, Liberia is approaching a doomsday scenario. So everything we do, we have to be very drastic and radical. We don't even want to give ourselves even the price on the back. The democracy we're talking about, it's just been 12 years old in our country. from 1847 to 2005, there was no democracy in Liberia. Our democracy is a brand new democracy.
It's not true.
Have to give it.
That's not true,
We
Mr.
have to. Okay.
But I got a question for Mr. Cooney. I got a question for you.
Our democracy.
Leo, no question.
No, Mr. Jai. It's a simple one. When in 1983, when they changed the constitution, did the whole governance system collapse? When they decided
there was a military coup. There was a military coup.
Please give me a chance. I'm just asking you, did the whole country collapse?
There was a military coup.
Yeah, but that's not my question. I'm not asking if there was a coup or not. Did the whole country collapse as a result of changing the constitution?
Listen.
The government collapsed.
In 1980, right? Was it in 1980? It was in 1980? Exactly, but the constitution, according to the data, was written in 1983, 3 years later.
No, when the coup took over, they suspended the 1847 constitution.
Exactly. And PRC had a ruling governing council in place. Did it collapse? That's why I'm asking.
Right.
It didn't collapse. You people making a lot to say to replace our constitution. The whole country has to collapse. We will not be the first country that has changed its constitution. I can name you many countries that have. Complete change.
The 1983 constitution was because of the 1980 coup. Without the 1980 coup, you would not have a new constitution.
But Liberia is not the only country. I can name you countries that have changed their constitution.
Let me make my point.
I muted Leo.
Let me make my point. I submit to you our democracy, that democracy where ordinary Liberians for the first time are electing whoever they like, start from 2005. So the democracy is brand new, and we are impatient to let it work. So we are pushing for all these radical theories. The way you change laws in a democracy is through amendments. We don't want to put in the time for amendment. It's wasting our time because we don't want to educate, we don't want to empower. So we're calling for the radical breakdown where we can put a new constitution, but they're not telling us how it can be done.
Nobody is calling for a radical breakdown.
So how do we have a coup will put in the new constitution?
All right, thank you, gentlemen. Thank you. I mean, this is very, very interesting. This tells us that we have to keep this thing going. So don't worry, we're going to stop here tonight, but we're going to continue the series. Let me read you some comments from YouTube. This one comes from Mr. Jerome Verdier again. He said, must be security, accountability and justice, security and opportunity must be the basis for governance if we are to make progress or develop progressiveness. Isaac Zawolo said this edition is interesting. Ego. Jerome had a chance to engage all of these. What happened? Jerome Verdier replied, Jerome, he produced recommendations and they went back and forth for a little bit. Joshua Patakoli said, Mr. Finlay is on point. Monju C, the poverty reduction plan was not designed for wealth creation. It was designed for reducing poverty on an incremental basis. Take a man from owning 1 bottle of palm oil to 2 or 3 bottles. Joshua again says, good blueprints for governance, Mr. Verdier. Also uphold the tenets of integrity, be incorruptible, and possess zero tolerance towards malversation of any kind and any form of abuse of power. So Joshua concludes, to Mr. Wilmer Cooney, a simple referendum can be held to decide whether to make changes to the existing constitution or whether to completely draft a new constitution. We don't need a coup or revolution. Back to you, Mr. C.
Mr. Jha, thank you, gentlemen. We are about hitting 2 hours. We got to shut it down. We will contact you again. We will continue on with the other segment. I think the legislative branch and executive branch alone, we cover a lot. We will come back again to look at the judiciary branch of government and other things like political parties. I think you will be more than willing to join us. We can go more than 2 hours. So what we're going to do here is that, I mean, maybe asking questions each other is bringing the noise. So we will avoid that. And I will charge my man Finlay for doing that. He started asking questions where you live, and you know. So
I apologize. I apologize for that.
Yeah. So, gentlemen, let's conclude. And to conclude, let's start with Desmond. Desmond, we talk about the legislative branch of government. We talk about the executive branch of government. Wrap it up. What was your core point on the legislative and also the executive, so we can close?
My core point remains the same. The level of impunity that exists in Liberia is a fundamental problem. It exists from market women all the way up to presidents. People walk around with a sense of the air of owning things that aren't theirs, and there's nothing you can say or do about it. Until we start to address these things, Liberia will be where they are. And that's my thought and my parting words for today.
Thank you so much. Let's come to you, Mr. Coonan.
Well, as I indicated, as I tried to point out throughout the night, the fundamental problem we face in our country is the governance structure that centralizes power in Monrovia and deprive our people in their regions and the various counties the opportunity of self-governance. I think we need to decentralize governance in our country. And as it relates to the legislature, I think there are other changes that can be made, but part of it, the legislature will have to be aware of its own function as the first branch of government. And the final point I want to make tonight is that, look, our system of governance may be imperfect, the constitution may be imperfect, but we have to take gradual steps to improve our democracy. Democracy has only been true democracy has only been in Liberia for the past 12 years. And I think we need to give the Liberian people some credit on that, keeping the democracy alive. Changes are possible. We can go by route of constitutional amendment. We can do propositions to write laws that we think that are not right. But like my brother said here, we can't throw the baby, I don't know, put the baby with hot water. We can't destroy everything and try to rebuild. Anytime we try to rebuild, we've set ourselves backward. We need to improve on what we have through gradual advocacy for laws that don't make sense to us. And this is where I think political parties, this is where we come in on this platform to educate our people. This is where pressure groups, this is where civil society groups all need to come in for them to look at the laws and say, you know what, is this aspect of the law working? If it is not working, let us empower people so that the people can advocate for the change of the laws. I don't see a scenario under which a new constitution can be written when you have a current legislature in place, to say, set this thing down. The first thing was the mechanism. How are you going to get it done? So that's the point I'm making.
All right, Leo.
First of all, let me thank all of the panelists and thank you, Mr. Jai and Anthony, for a beautiful show tonight. I'm happy that we all accept that change is the way to go, even though how is where we all have gotten stuck. But let me just remind people, when we use these terms like democracy, what do they really mean? And democracy is contextual everywhere. I live right in Canada, which is bordering the United States. In Canada, the democracy here is Westminster, which means the Queen of England is actually the head of our government. The Queen of England has the power to suspend our parliament. Elected representatives of the people can be suspended by the Queen of England. People used to say it was ceremonial. I've been in Canada 2 times. The Queen has suspended parliament, sent all of them home for the government to take a certain decision. If you go to Africa today and take one Nana Yao in Ghana, or you go to Liberia and take one Oma and make her the supreme ruler of the country and say she has power over the president, I'm pretty sure Western nations will say that's not democracy. But in Canada, they call it democracy, and it is democracy. So I want us to think, when we start to use these big terms that have been given us by Western countries and say democracy, it has to be contextual. And what we haven't done in Liberia, we have never been able to contextualize what democracy means for us, because Liberia did not exist in a vacuum. There were people there, there were cultures there before we brought in this Western system. I will close by saying this to everybody. We cannot continue from where we stopped, because we took 20 years to destroy what we had. We took 20 years to destroy our civilization. We took 20 years to destroy the very foundations that were upholding the things we had in place. Now that we've come back from this war, we are living in a different era. Even our generation is living in a different times. We cannot expect that the things that we had in place of building a certain foundation will still survive without those foundations being in place. So there is need for a drastic fundamental change. They say bad soul requires bad medicine. You cannot take small medicine to put it on a bad soul. So in my opinion, nobody's calling for a revolution. We are calling for bold new ideas that can take us to a new place that is contextual to the Republic of Liberia, including 100% of its citizens and not 20% of its citizens.
And Mr. Leo, it looked like you read my blog post 2008 called Customizing Our Democracy.
All right.
I wrote that. Check my blog, dennisjar.blogspot.com, and you're going to read that. Customizing Our Democracy.
I'm glad you're inside.
At least Leo took revolution off the table. Good.
No call for revolution.
No, Mr. Alex Jones.
I think when people hear the word revolution, they get scared. And that's exactly what's going to happen in Liberia, one way or another. The changes that we need in Liberia is not going to come from corrupt government officials and legislators. People who bribe to get a way into power are not going to change and create the kind of laws that you're advocating, check and balances. The problem in Liberia is the government. But I mean, the three branches of government has been a problem. So that we can't rely on those three branches to bring the solution. So we want a revolution in Liberia. We want a socio-economic. We want a revolution that will change our judicial system and make it work for the people. We want an economic revolution in Liberia where a few hundred men will command almost 50% of the entire budget for themselves in terms of pay and allowances and compensation. All my brothers here are talking about graduate. And they're not feeling the pinch in Liberia. They don't have to get up every morning and not even have transportation or food. So it's convenient for them. And I think that's cruelty because this is a country where it's one of the least economically, one of the highest extreme poverty in the world. The mortality rate in Liberia is one of the highest in the world. Babies are dying and you are saying, oh, it's okay. Let's just take our time. That's because that's not your child. That's because that's not your brother or your sister. If you were there in that situation, you'll be screaming from the rooftop. So we want a revolution in Liberia, and that's what, if it has to go through that, that's what we're advocating for. Thank you, and we change has to come, and it's going to come one way or another.
All right,
Mr. Jones. They say to circumcise a leper is not a thing, but who will hold the leper down? We'll
find out how time goes by.
Who will catch the leper by the legs and hold it down?
Who called the first one?
Hey, gentlemen, we can't say thank you enough. We all here live in the West. We know the importance of time. And it is even said that time is money. For you to have given us 2 hours of your time, despite the delay, and still being here to discuss this very important topic. Again, we can only say we can't thank you enough. But hey, it is about our country. And if any group of people should change Liberia, it gotta be us. We are the one that have the education, who know about the technology. This is the information age. Google can tell you anything. YouTube can tell you anything. And so if Liberia must be changed, if we can't do it, I don't know that group of Liberians that are going to do that. Because if you look at our educational system right now, the people behind us, I'm worried about them. So it got to be us. And I think this is the understanding you bring to this conversation. That is why we continue to say we can't thank you enough. On that note, folks in cyberspace who have been watching us, this series, we will continue it next week, and we will see if we can bring in the same panel. I enjoyed myself. I enjoyed the controversy. It was a good discussion. Mr. Ja, tell Mr. Cooney, the war revolution does not mean war is coming. Bernie Sanders launched a revolution in America. Yeah, he didn't complain about that. He want to complain about the war revolution.
Mr. Cooney and days, revolution mean war. Mr. Cooney and time, when you say revolution, that war, so he can get scared. When you say revolution, he can run.
But why is Bernie Sanders revolution? Why has the revolution carried Bernie Sanders?
Okay.
All right. So, Mr. Ja, it's over to you.
Hamilton Zilli on Facebook. I didn't know that people were commenting on Facebook too. Yeah. Hamilton Zilli said, our problem in Liberia is not about competence. It is not expertise. It is not about educated or not educated. Our problem is, can anybody guess?
Corruption.
Character. He said character.
My man, Leo, please send me the number.
I was
All
saying
right.
the number, Mr. Kuni.
So, guys, we want to thank you so very much. We want to conclude tonight. Thank you so much. We want to say thank you to our viewers who follow us from Facebook now to YouTube. We can't thank you enough. Focus on Liberia. We strive to educate, elevate, and promote all things Liberian. We all know the problem, the solutions sometimes vary, and then the approaches that we take can be very. Someone revolution, even if it is a cinema roll revolution, they want it. Someone baby steps. Some say don't throw the baby away with the bathwater. Some say we got to do it now because tomorrow can't wait. Whatever way you do it, we are saying we are all Liberians, so let's do our best to keep our country that sweet land of liberty.
We are Liberians.
No, Sonia, bring your speech here. Tomorrow we can go and stop that singing thing.
Man, who afraid of revolution?
We bring Martin Luther King Jr. style revolution, no relenting. The people there, you're not saying that on the content for so long, you want to do the thing gradually.
We are